I am Grady Collane, and welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by a special guest from Barnstable County. Do you mind introducing yourself for our listeners?
Certainly. My name is Ken Cirillo, and I am the director of the county's Dredge program.
Awesome. It's great to have you in the back in the studio. We talked a few times before, but now we've got a little bit of a new setup. Hopefully it's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
So we appreciate very much you stopping by for this, and we are going to talk a little bit more about the Dredge program, what you guys do, as well as with the summer season ending. I'm sure it's a busy summer time for you. We've heard that there is some need for some more people, it's the same as it is for every piece of the industry and workforce across the Cape and Islands region. So we want to talk a little bit more about what you guys do, a little bit more about the projects you guys take on, and then we'll dive into more specifics after that.
Yeah.
So can you give us an overview?
Yeah, sure. So the last couple of months, typically the summertime is spent for doing a lot of the maintenance work that we don't get time to do during the season.
Mm-hmm.
This summer is no exception. We have one of the dredges at the shipyard in Fairhaven. We have a lot of work being done with our skiffs and other maintenance that we do. And the last month, we've also been mobilizing for the dredging project in the Mashpee, the Pompanesett Approach Channel. And it's been very, very challenging, primarily to try to find a location where we can put our booster station onto our barge. The summertime is not really conducive for finding these kinds of locations, so it's taken a few weeks to do that. We did this last Friday, and now yesterday and the day before, we brought pipe into the Mashpee spit.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Could you? So I assume it's just because traffic and the roads are heavily used right now is some of what the major issues are when it comes to the setup?
Yeah, the challenge here is that the booster station that we have is very large. It weighs 20 tons, and it needs to be put onto a barge via a crane, and the locations that we typically use are all tied up during the summertime with transient slips and hotel parking in Falmouth. The Saquatucket Marina, we can't use that bulkhead anymore for the engineering structure side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a bit of a dance for us to try to find a place where we can do that close by.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, it sounds already very complicated. We're about less than 5 minutes in so far, but it's very interesting. So is this when is the busiest time of the year for you guys?
Well, the season should start off mid-month September, and then it really runs all the way through May. So that's the off season when Cape Cod goes to sleep. We're the ones that are working through that off season time of year.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So as well, just to talk a little bit more, you're relatively new to the role. I mean, you've been here for quite a while now at this point.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years? They can fly by, really.
For this job.
Do you mind elaborating more on some of the changes you've seen? I know there's been a lot of work to update the fleet, essentially. Can you talk about your...
Certainly. The biggest challenges that we have been worked on in terms of equipment upgrades and new purchases. You know, we have had a lot of old equipment that no longer, is running well. So we've spent a fair amount of time, and we have received 2 very good grants, one from the Mass Dredge and another one from Opera for $1 million each. And we've been very close to finishing up most of our procurement and buying excavators, front-end loaders, new barge, on and on. So we're really like rebuilding the whole program. So we are close to having a lot of that in place. Now the biggest challenge really is staffing, which is really why we're here, is that we're trying to really rebuild a crew so we have enough capacity to do all the work that we're obligated to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, just for setting expectations, how many people do you have now, and roughly what is the ideal department size?
Yeah, the ideal department size is really dictated by the budget right now that we have. So let's exclude myself, but we would have 7 crew: a superintendent, 2 levermen, and 4 deckhand. So that's what we should have. Right now we are down 3 positions. So we're down a maintenance engineer and 2 deckhands.
I see. So elaborating a little bit more, we have the deckhands. Are they just kind of conducting general work? And what
we call it deckhand.
positions?
It's probably not a good term.
Sure.
Deckhand is sort of a traditional word that's being used in the maritime community. But basically, this person's task and his primary responsibility is working during the dredge operations on a skiff, moving the anchors as the dredge moves and dredges down the channel, doing the shoreside part of it. We have to drag pipe and move it up to the beach using skid steer, other equipment, the skiffs, supporting the daily work that needs to be done on dredging, and then of course all the maintenance that we would typically do, as we mentioned earlier about the fiberglassing, the painting, and all the rest of the work.
So that's very interesting as well, talking more about the different positions. And you mentioned the maintenance engineer. Can you elaborate more? I'm assuming that's a very vital role just from the title alone, but
Yeah.
can you talk more about the details?
Yeah, so the equipment that we have really runs the range from something really simple to outboard engines onto hydraulic pumps and Caterpillar engines that are on board the dredge. And we're really looking for that sort of MacGyver kind of guy or woman that is capable of out of the box, being able to go ahead and do the repairs and work that's needed, or if the challenge is there, to figure out how to do it. And we really are trying to build a preventative maintenance program. All the new assets that we have acquired are obviously going to need to be properly maintained, but during the day-to-day work that we do, stuff happens, and when it breaks, we have to have the spare parts on hand to fix it, and we have to have the capability of being able to repair it. Right now, we have our dredge superintendent who's fabulous at doing that, but nonetheless, we need more capacity because the day-to-day operations are the main priority, and the rest of the maintenance and upkeep that needs to be done is something that we are trying to focus one person on.
I remember as well when you first took on the role, watching some of those commissioner meetings and whatnot, a lot of the conversation was around replacing some out-of-date gear and some stuff that maybe wasn't the best maintained. Can you elaborate on how
Yeah, so that's the
important
good part, is that, with the money that we have received from the Mass Dredge and from the opera money, we have we have almost completed all the acquisitions that we have. So that's the good news. When we're not walking into, oh my gosh, what a mess we have from the equipment standpoint. It's absolutely the opposite, is that we have a lot of brand new good equipment, and we're trying to really be more disciplined in being able to properly maintain it going forward, so that in 5 years we don't all of a sudden have a pile of rust and a pile of broken things that we have to restart everything again.
And there's a lot of channels that need dredging across the Cape and Islands region.
There's way too many projects for us, that we look at right now that we think we'll be able to kind of do on a regular basis, and more to come.
So, do you mind talking a little bit more about these positions in general? Are these high demanding positions? Do you need a certain certification? Is there safety regulations involved?
Well, the deckhand position, we would really prefer to have someone who has small boat experience. That said, we also know that we can train people because it's hard to find, believe it or not, even on Cape Cod, a large number of candidates that have been out on boats and know how to run boats. We use
Really?
outboard engines with a tiller steer on it, so it's a little bit different than your traditional steering wheel and a console and a throttle. So we're looking for someone that has that capability to be adaptive and work in conditions that certainly throughout the course of the winter time, and we go through weather cycles, and certainly we do operate 12 months out of the year. When it gets cold and things ice up, we're still out there working. So, there is the environmental part of that that's important, is that, it's not going to be working inside of a building for the deckhand. They're going to be out in the water most days, even when it might not be too warm and mild outside.
I can feel the cold chill already seeping in, but a lot of people do like that. I know a lot of fishermen.
I think the bottom line is that it's an absolutely fabulous job for the right person that wants to be able to go out in the water, see the results of the work. Every single day we do produce something. The dredging takes place, you see the results of that, you're getting your hands dirty, you're out there working on the water, and you're home at night. So, really is a fabulous opportunity for the right person. You can also accumulate hours for Coast Guard licenses. So if you are interested in getting licensed from the Coast Guard, those hours do count towards your sea time, which is obviously very important as well.
Now, you've mentioned this before, but this is also about dredging the channels and making it so the boats can go through. But I think they're also helping to fight some of the local erosion going on. Can you elaborate?
Yeah. Well, I think certainly there's two benefits of the work that we do. One of those is clearing the channel, so maintaining the navigation clearance of each channel, and then the sand that we dredge is put onto the beach. So beach nourishment is the byproduct of what we do. A lot of the projects, just like the one that we're going to be starting in Mashpee, there's a tremendous amount of erosion that has taken place, and the sand will be deposited in this basin area in the corner, and it acts as a feeder to move the sand down the beach. So almost without exception, every one of our projects is like that. We dredge the channel to clear it for navigation, and then the sand is deposited on the beach to help restore and nourish the beach areas.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting just because we've been seeing so many strong storms as of late. I mean, we had a tornado touchdown
Yep.
for a little while in Barnstable County just a while ago. So in light of these, it is interesting to see a lot of dredging programs are suddenly becoming like sustainability programs. In a way.
Correct. Yep, they are. They're really traditionally what we've always done has been to clear the channel and put the beach back together.
Mm-hmm.
Now more than ever, because we are seeing it accelerated, and we are seeing some areas that have not normally seen this rate, where it is definitely increasing. And clearly for us, sand moves, and it's sort of the ultimate bridge painting job is that we get to one end, we got to go back and do it again. And that's what we'll do. We do have probably half our projects that are done annually, and the other half are staggered over 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years, it depends.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure local towns and local fishermen are very thankful for the work that you guys do. But what is it that actually drew you to this industry and position? Can you give us the story?
By mistake, probably, than anything else. Just one of those things that I had finished some work with Garmin, and I was just taking some time off, and I saw this opportunity here, and I never heard of the county dredge program, and I dug a little bit deeper, and it seemed like kind of an interesting opportunity, and they were looking for somebody to help to rebuild the program. So here we are.
One of those other quirks of the Cape and Islands region, essentially. I'm sure there's plenty of other maritime sea folk locations that have a similar program, but we've heard that this is a very one of a kind of program we have
Absolutely.
running.
Yep, it is. I mean, the program that we have has been running for now 27 years. This will be our 28th year. We provide the services to every town on the Cape, with the exception of Brewster, simply because they don't have any harbors or channels. But all the rest of the towns, probably 10 out of the 15, we are doing routinely.
Mm-hmm. Are there any particular problem locations that need some more love and affection, essentially? Or
the biggest challenge that we have had in the last 2 years has been the permitting. And the permitting that is done, we have four towns right now, 3 towns right now that are waiting for their 10-year permits to be approved. Another one is going to be submitting it. Another one next year is going to be submitting theirs. And this has really caused the backlog in this past fiscal year and the year before, which has really sort of changed our rhythm of being able to kind of run very methodically from project to project to project. When the permits are stopped, those projects have been postponed, and those postponed projects aren't being done. So that nice schedule that we have had over these years has now been disrupted. And then the result of that, obviously, is that we also are not helping from our budget side to be able to go ahead and bring the revenue in to continue to run the program, on a break even, because that's our obligation as well.
Okay, so actually that was my next question, is that this is kind of like, I believe it's self-sufficient is the word I'm looking for when it comes to how this is run.
Yeah, the county dredge is set up as an enterprise fund. When it was originally established back in '96, it was set up as an enterprise fund, which really is its own side set of books, its own P&L. It's supposed to be self-sustaining. Some years it might go down in the red, other years it will be in the black. It puts together a retained earnings, basically its own account set aside for future use. That's in theory how it was set up. And unfortunately, the last several years, the rates, very beneficial for all of us, have not really increased proportionally to the expense side. So here we are.
Right. So you had brought this up as well during previous commissioner meetings, is that it's being offered as almost a charity, it seems. So, but unfortunately, it does make it so there's no revenue.
Yeah, that's just another challenge, I think, for us, is that we have the job to do, we have equipment that we need to maintain, we have a lot of work that needs to be done. How we solve the problem on the budget side, we're working on that in different ways, but we'll continue to do the dredging that we need to do.
That is fantastic to hear. So as well, just talking a little bit more, is there any specific anecdotes that you can have to share when it comes to some of the experiences you have with some of your fellow workers or sailors, or some of the bright sides besides the, being able to get out on the boat? But is there something specific about like the sea or the ocean that drew you?
Well, I think as I've spent, many, many years at sea, from Alaska to the East Coast and everywhere else, and certainly Cape Cod is Nantucket Sound, and our area here has its share of weather, and unless you're really out there all the time, you don't see it. You see it from a parking lot, but when you see it as we have, and certainly the conditions and the change, the winds that we have in the wintertime, it might have been a very mild winter this past winter, but it was a very windy winter. And, that does prohibit us from doing work because the sea state would be too much for us. So the Cape is certainly sticking out, and it does have its share of weather that is quite different than some other areas where you might be further inland, where you're not really worried about, what that means for the operation of a business. In our business, we're on the water.
That is very interesting. Do you, as an opportunity to perhaps flex your experiences a little bit, do you think that being a sailor out there, especially on the dredge, you guys have a little bit more of an appreciation for what the local climate is like?
Yeah, I think our crew, has 100% respect for what that translates to. On a daily basis, whether we're down in Chatham and Stage Harbor, where the currents might be running 4 or 5 knots, and the temperatures might be down to 25 degrees, 20 degrees or colder, and the wind's blowing, or the summertime as it gets milder. They see it all, and we know how important the work that we do, but at the same time you have to be very careful, because certainly at the end of the day everybody needs to go home safely.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Now, just for those who might be a bit concerned, so it's a safe job. You guys have the proper training. You haven't lost anyone.
No. Fortunately, knock wood, it's been very, very good. Minor injuries here and there, but the cuts, the scrapes, and the bruises, and maybe a little, some other little nick. But for the most part, the training is done. Safety is very important. We supply the cold weather gear, the boots, the float coats, the life jackets, all that. So that's all taken care of. Training, again, for us, it's on hands training, hands-on training, where we'll go ahead and show what needs to be done, because there's not a whole lot of folks out there that have worked on dredges. And we're not looking for, somebody who has 10 years of experience, but certainly somebody who could be here who is retired from working in the dredge operations. So certainly we're open to trying to find anyone that we can bring into our crew and get them to be part of a very successful program.
Mm-hmm. For that 70-year-old expert who's just looking to dust off their life jacket and get a few more hours under the belt, you know where to find them. But thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Do you have anything else you wanted to add related to the Dredge program, where people can find out more, or other highlights?
Yeah, I think the county website that we have set up for the Dredge program is very good. It shows a lot of information. We have a great recruitment video that we've put together that hopefully we'll be able to share. I think the program itself, certainly, as I know, is not one that's well known. You dig a little bit, you find out about it. It's really a neat program. I think that's what we hope to find, is to kind of get the word out there that we are looking for folks that want to join a great team to do great work.
Mm-hmm. And just one more time, talking about kind of the unfortunate obscurity of this program, you think with ARPA and a couple of other eyes on you guys from the state level, you think that stuff like this is going to get more love in the future?
Yeah, I think the last 2 years or so we've seen a very big change in terms of the awareness of the program, both from the projects that we have not been able to do because of these permits being frozen. It shows that there is a big need for that. All of a sudden when you stop doing something, people are aware of it. So that's number one. And number two, I think the importance of the work from the standpoint of what we talked about earlier, the increase in erosion, the need to go ahead and clear the channels, the importance of dredging from the navigation standpoint. Certainly the commercial fishing industry on the Cape is really critical, and they see dredging as one of their number one concerns. So there's more than enough sort of overview of what we do. I think that's the good part. We're not trying to build that case, because it's very clear that what we do is really important.
Yeah, it is unfortunate when you have one of those sort of jobs where you only notice it once it's gone. It's otherwise invisible.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah. In the wintertime, obviously, not many people see us out there. So the dredge is really moving from port to port, month to month, and it's not known when you see it out there in the summertime, except right now where we are trying to get going in Mashpee at the end of August. So it's a little bit different, and there'll be a little bit more awareness, because it's still a very active time of year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but of course, we see the work, we see the beaches, and we get to see those beaches and walk across them ourselves.
That's right. Yeah,
So.
and that's right, because at the end, when you don't realize why that sand is there, when you put your chair down in June in many of these locations, it's because the work that we did in January and February and March to put the sand on that beach, and that's why it happened.
Mm-hmm. I have to help rebrand you guys as beach builders from now on for the.
Yeah, we need a new name. Dredge just doesn't translate. I think it's a horrible word. So we need to find a little contest where we can kind of give ourselves a new identity.
Well, it sounds like you guys do great work. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. It's been an honor to speak with you more in detail about this stuff.
Yep.
And congratulations with the new equipment, and good luck for this upcoming busy season.
Great. Thank you very much. We hope to get you out there as well, so you can kind of see what we do.
Oh, I look forward to it. Thank
Good.
you again for the invitation. and
Excellent.
hopefully listeners can stay tuned. We might be able to do something with that soon.
Very good. Thank
But,
you.
Yeah, I'm Gritty Collane, and this has been Sunday Journal.